good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from across the globe. Welcome to today's edition of the Agricultural Sensitization Webinar Series. Thank you for joining us for this very important conversation titled Africa's Agricultural Crisis and Opportunities for Transformation. Africa's agriculture is facing real pressure, from climate shocks to food insecurity to market inefficiencies and demographic change. But alongside these challenges lie powerful opportunities for renewal, innovation, and sustainable growth. Today's session is about understanding those realities clearly and identifying pathways that actually work for Africa. Before we begin, it is my pleasure to introduce the moderator for today's session, a distinguished scholar and practitioner whose work continues to shape agricultural economics and productivity in Africa. Professor Abdrauf Miftaudeen is a professor of agricultural production economics and a strong advocate for technology-driven agricultural transformation. His research focuses on improving farm productivity, strengthening resource use efficiency, and promoting cross-country knowledge transfer within Africa. With decades of academic experience, over 60 scholarly publications, and extensive leadership and mentoring across universities in Nigeria and Southern Africa, Professor Miftaudeen brings both rigor and real-world insight to today's discussion. Professor, we are honored to have you guide this conversation. It is also my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's session. Dr. Idris Badiru is a reader in the Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development at the University of Ibadan. He is an accomplished scholar, development communicator, and rural development specialist with over 2 decades of experience working at the intersection of agriculture, policy, and farmer-centered communication. Dr. Badiru's work has strengthened agricultural extension systems, empowered rural communities, and influenced major national and regional programs, including collaborations with the World Bank, IITA, WAAPP, and CORAF WEKRC. Through innovative platforms such as farmer-focused radio programs and participatory development initiatives, he has consistently translated research into action. Today, Dr. Badiru will help us unpack Africa's agricultural challenges, not just as problems, but as opportunities for meaningful and sustainable transformation. At this point, I am pleased to hand over the session to our moderator, Professor Abdrauf Miftaudeen. The floor is yours.
You are welcome to this month's webinar, and the presenter, Dr. Idris Badiru's short CV has been read to us, and is going to give us the presentation on the topic, Africa's Agricultural Crisis and Opportunities for Transformation. Dr. Idris Badiru will be having the floor for the next 45 minutes, and I believe at the end of his discussion, you would have gained a lot on this particular topic. I will now give the floor to Dr. Idris Badiru to give us his presentation, after which we have our questions being answered. You can be typing your question in the chat box for him to be able to answer, or whatever comment you may have. By the end of the presentation, justice will be done to this. Dr. Idris Badiru, you have the floor now. Okay, Dr. Idris, are you there? Okay, maybe there is a technical issue. I think it's supposed to have joined the floor by now. It should join the floor anytime he's there. And I think his presentation will be given to us. Let's give him about 1 or 2 minutes. Probably there's a technical issue from his side. And once again, before he join us, once again, based on the short biography of Dr. Badiru that has been read to us, that he is a communicator and a rural development specialist whose work has significantly advanced agricultural innovation, extension, and policy in Oyo State, Nigeria, and across Africa. With over 2 decades of academic, field, and consultancy experience, he has dedicated his career to improving rural livelihoods, strengthening agricultural institutions, and enhancing knowledge system through participatory communication and impact-driven research. At the University of Ibadan, Dr. Badiru serves as in the Department of Cultural Extension and Rural Development, where he teaches and supervises research in agricultural journalism, development communication, behavioral change communication, and project evaluation. He has mentioned, he has mentored a generation of agricultural extension professionals and led multiple community outreach projects that bridge academia, farmers, and policy institutions. Through initiatives like Farmers Forum Radio on Diamond FM, Dr. Badiru has transformed agricultural communication in Oyo State, empowering farmers with timely practical information and fostering behavioral change toward his role in producing rural specific COVID-19 prevention campaigns further showcased his commitment to inclusive rural health and food security, the communication. Dr. Badiru has also trained local government officers in Oyo State on community development, social change, and monitoring and evaluation, enhancing the capacity of local institutions to implement sustainable development policies and projects. Beyond Oyo State, Dr. Badiru's impact resonates nationally and internationally. He has served as a consultant and expert evaluator for key agricultural programs, including the World Bank's FADAMA project, the West Africa Agricultural Productivity Program, and the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA. His work has influenced agricultural value chain development, policy reforms, and rural finance initiatives across Nigeria. As an extension specialist for the PROSSIVA YAM project, domicile at IITA, Dr. Badiru contributes to improving YAM seed systems and food security across sub-Saharan Africa. Sociology, Rural Development, the Scientific and Technical Committee STC of CORAF, where his expertise supports agricultural research coordination in West and Central Africa. Dr. Badiru was a senior fellow of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, and a former guest researcher at the Nordic African Institute, Sweden. His over 55 peer-reviewed publications in development, communication, rural sociology, and project evaluation have made significant contributions to agricultural knowledge and practice. His work contributes to shape agricultural development discourse and policy in Nigeria and beyond. This is just a brief about Dr. Badiru, and as said, he will have the presentation for the next 45 minutes, and I'm still yet to see him on the stage. Perchance is having some network issue, so let's give him like 30 seconds more. He will soon join us to give us his presentation. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Badiru, you are welcome. I think you have some connectivity issues. We have been waiting for you to present
Yeah, hello.
on. Hello, okay, can you hear me
Hello,
clearly?
Prof.
Can you hear me? Okay, I think you can hear me, Dr. Badiru. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, I'm just saying that you're supposed to give us a presentation on the given topic, Africa's agricultural crisis and opportunities for transformation. If you are ready for us now, you can give us the presentation the next 45 minutes, and you have the floor now. You can continue with the presentation, please, Dr. Badiru. Okay. Hello, Dr. Badiru, can you hear me?
So can we go ahead right now?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, please. You can go ahead. You can go ahead. Dr. Badiru, go ahead, please. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Now?
Okay, you can go ahead, please. Hello, I can hear you. Can you hear me, Dr. Badiru? I'm hearing you clearly. We can hear you. Just continue your presentation, please. Continue with your.
Hear me now?
We are hearing you, Dr. Badiru.
Okay.
We
Okay.
can,
Yeah, please, will you?
You can move the slide. You can control the slide over there.
Let me use my films. This thing is hanging. Maybe the is not strong enough. Let me try and connect through my phone.
Okay. But can you hear me?
I can hear you. Not
That's
sure
very good.
everybody
You
is
can
hearing
continue.
me.
We can hear you clearly. Very clear. Everybody is hearing you. We are only expecting you to continue with the discussion. You can move the slide. I think you can move the slide.
I can hear you, but it's not strong. It's breaking.
Okay, just continue. People are hearing you. We can hear you clearly.
Then I'm not able to maneuver with my slides as well. So probably you that work on
All right.
the phone.
No
Oh,
problem.
that's it. Then okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. Um, it's a pity we failed the of agricultural extension, and that is whatever technology your presentation, you must follow um, practice with it, react it before day. When I was contacted to talk to this audience, I had in mind to either use Zoom or Google Meet because I'm used to that. So it was even this afternoon that I started talk about the issue of link. Where is the link to use? And in fact, I joined from YouTube. I discovered that the program was on, but I wasn't. So it's a pleasure to be your midst. I'm so happy to have this opportunity in this platform to hear my views and contribute to the discussion on the development of agriculture in our continent. The topic is already stated. I'm going to be talking about crisis in the agricultural sector and the challenges as well as the opportunities that are abound in the in the in the sector as well. I hope everybody can hear me. Now, my outline is what I have in front of us here. I'll be looking at the background, uh, giving us some information about the topic. I'll also say something about development disparities um, with respect to agriculture. I'll also look at historical issues, uh, the current challenges, innovative practices, and as well as some sectoral opportunities. Uh, then policy reforms that are needed to conclude my presentation. Please, next slide, please. Now, as a way of introducing the topic, I want to start with a caveat, and that is the fact that Africa one very big paradox. And it is a paradox because it's a place where we have almost everything in abundance. Abundant arable land, abundance of young. We have a lot of people who are always complaining that they have nothing to do. And if you look at our demographics, you will discover that a larger percentage of our population are actually youth. And we're also very, very rich and have diverse ecology. But we keep complaining about food insecurity. We keep complaining about low yields and low productivity. We also keep about unemployment in spite of these opportunities that abound in our environment. We also have uh, um, the challenge of weak chains, market chains, logistics, and what have you. One caveat we need to put forward for ourselves is there's nothing typically African about what we call African countries because Africa itself is not a monolith. What I mean by this is that when we look at Africa, the development in Africa, we discovered that though we may be called one continent, but the development vary from one part of Africa to the other. I'm a Nigerian, and a lot of us who are Nigerians, we know that despite the fact that we call ourselves one country, one nation, we have different dialects, we have different orientations to issue. The same thing when we look at Africa as a continent, there are development disparities. When we look at it, we'll see that in the North Africa, specifically, we can use Egypt as an example. We discovered that the level of yields that they get and the sophistication of the agriculture cannot be to the sophistication of agriculture of sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, if we move to South Africa, for example, we even see some kind of disparity within the same country. When we look at the farming sector, on one side we have the commercialized and the mechanized farming setup, largely controlled by the whites, and we have the small holding that is more or less the lot of those that are black in that particular country. Meanwhile, when we come to East Africa, we look at Kenya, look at Tanzania and some other countries within East Africa, we discover that kind of a mixed performance in terms of productivity. And we also note that they carved a niche for themselves in the area of horticultural products and production, as well as within the dairy sector. So when we look at this as a whole, we cannot say that when we say this is a problem of Africa, we cannot say it affects all countries within the continent in the same business line. I want to present to us in my that gives us an idea of what we are talking about. And this slide that we this next slide, please. If this table that we're talking about, we look at what we have in Egypt in terms of application, the way they use it to be able to apply, for you the level of production and productivity that it is in several of hundreds of kilograms of fertilizer applied per hectare. In fact, European countries, the continental average, looking at the average, that is when we factor what is used in South Africa and what we use all the other countries within the continent, we'll see that it's very, very low. And it means the other countries, despite Egypt is doing well, South Africa is managing, the other countries are drawing the average down. The same thing when we look at yield of crops, particularly cereals, we'll discover that in Egypt, at times it could reach like 6-7 tons per hectare. But when we look at some other countries within Africa, we will see that we are talking in the range of 1 ton, 2 tons, and what have you. So when we look at some of these indices, some of these metrics, we will understand that though we are all in Africa, some other countries within the same continent that we are talking about. So, background. Uh, let us move to the next slide, where I decided to look on an average. So when we talk about the crisis that is in the agricultural sector, we are not talking about specifics. So when we look at the average, we will still discover that our reality as a continent in Africa is such that things are still not going on fine as it should be going. Averagely, well, generally, a situation have low productivity, and largely due to the fact that in many of these African countries that we're talking about, their systems are still characterized by rain-fed agriculture. There's still limited, and when you look at the value chain, it's still very, very fragmented. It's not as sophisticated as it is found in some other climes. When we look at the systems that we are running in most African countries, because of this dependence on the vagaries of weather, the system is therefore very, very vulnerable to climate shocks, and this, in a lot of instances, actually lead to post-harvest losses that could reach even more than 40% in some cases. We've had instances, for instance, in Nigeria, in some crops, where post-harvest losses could reach up to 50, 60%. And these are likely due to the fact that they are not able to store them very well, and they also have challenges with transportation infrastructure. So when we look at it, from the general perspective, looking at the averages that we have in many of these countries in Africa, we will say that things are not so good. But moving to the historical foundations, we will discover that in the pre-colonial eras, and even during the early colonial era, we will discover that Africa wasn't a place where that was so ridden with a lot of some of these challenges that we're talking about. Because as at that time, there was this kind of connection and connectivity among many of these small states and the empires that were in existence as at that time. There were a lot of trades in between some of these state countries and cities, empires that existed. For instance, in Nigeria, if you go to Katsina, there is a market in Maradi. This market in Maradi is a market that is not a local market. It's an international market of a sort. You see people coming from Niger, coming from Chad to come and do their businesses there. It's the same thing when you go to the southern part of Nigeria. There are some markets in the south that we have people from Cameroon patronizing. And in the same way, it's very difficult for us to, apart from the fact that, okay, now the map has been established, we now have borders between Nigeria and Benin Republic. You know that the people of Benin Republic and the people of Southwest Nigeria, they have a history, they have this connection. So a lot of these things were in place during the pre-colonial eras and even in the early colonial eras. Now, and by post-independence, a lot of things were put in place in many African countries to make sure that agriculture actually thrived, because a lot of these countries actually depended on agriculture for the bulk of their economic advancement. Let me cite Nigeria again as an example, particularly in the southwest where I come from. Ibadan, where I reside and where I do my business as a university teacher, is home to the iconic cocoa house. This cocoa house was built, in fact, when cocoa house was built, uh, its like were not found in many European countries. It was from the money realized from agriculture that this was put in place. In fact, by the time we had the first TV station in the southwest and in the western Nigeria of then, they did not have a TV station in Highland. They did not have a TV station in Scotland. So it's that good for us. We are at that level of development, and what powered it then was nothing more than agriculture and and a few other sectors. And the local market that we were talking about in that time, they were so resilient. They were so resilient that despite the fact that there were inter clans, wars, and conflicts, after all is said and done, they still go back to these markets and they are able to still do their businesses. And there was also this traditional knowledge, what we call indigenous knowledge, and there was crop diversity. You understand that before monoculture was introduced to us, we imitated nature by practicing mixed cropping. And because of that, you hardly go to a farm that you see a farmer just that invested in the production of just one single line of crop alone. In those days, they were usually crops and what have you. And like I said earlier on, there was regional integration. Now, after all is said and done, let's go to the been faced with a lot of challenges in the agricultural sector. And the first among these challenges, hello? Audible?
Very clear, very clear. We are hearing you clearly. You are very audible. Continue.
Okay. Someone is asked it. Okay.
Okay.
In the current dispensation, we are faced with a number of challenges. Chief among them is the problem of low input adoption. And low input adoption in the sense that, I refer to something while I started, and that was look at even the issue of fertilizer application. Many countries in Africa are not able to apply fertilizer. Now, not only that, when you talk about improved seed, how many of them, or what is the quantum that our farmers are able to adopt in recent times? And another challenge is financing gaps. Wherever you go in the communities, in most of these African countries, if you do a participatory rural appraisal, by the time you are asking them their needs, top of their needs a lot of times is usually the issue of credit. We've not perfected a system whereby the much needed credit that our farmers will use to make their work go well. We've not perfected the system to make sure that it gets to them promptly and in the right amount that they need. We also have the problem of climate variability, and this will affect us because most of our farms are rain-fed. We've not reached the level of Egypt, for instance, where almost 100% of what they do is based on irrigation. So because of that, we are dependent on the vagaries of weather. So when there is water scarcity, that it's a problem to many of these countries. Then chief among the challenges as well is the problem of poor infrastructure and post-harvest losses. I'll share a personal example. In 2000, I'm working as a community facilitator somewhere in Ogun State. There was a time we went to the community that we were servicing. They were into a vegetable farming. There was a market day that the vehicle broke down a lot, and by the time the vehicle got to the market was over, and the farmer that was bringing his goods to the market was in a dilemma. He brought in vegetables, leafy and fruit vegetables that were highly perishable, and he couldn't decide on whether to take the vehicle back to his community, which will cost him more money in terms of transportation. And by the time he gets to the community, he has nobody to take up what is good, because that is what everybody else is also producing. But at the same time, he had nobody to sell the market to, because the market was already over by the time he got there. And if he wanted to go and do retailing, it means he's going to spend more money on transportation to get his products, his produce to the retail market that is in Abeokuta. And he's not so sure of what is going to meet there again. So at the end of the day, what he did was to just dump the whole produce, the whole load. He dumped it at that market, that market site at Oba community, and the produce just got wasted away. So a lot of this happened because we have challenges of infrastructure. You can imagine a situation whereby there is a very good cold store. It has this cold chain facilities where this man could, or we have chillers that he could use to preserve his vegetable for some time. He wouldn't have been forced to just dump them. Imagine he wasted money on transportation. He wasted his effort to harvest. He wasted his money, his effort to plant, and wasted money as well. So a lot of waste in this situation. Then we have the challenges of fragmented markets and trade barriers. Even within these countries, you see, we have everybody is claiming to be a nation state, and we have our borders. So because of that, there are tariffs, there are this and that before you bring things. Though there are a lot of smuggling that actually are taking place. But the market itself, the system itself is not so good enough for us to support agricultural production at the scale at which we ought to be operating. Now, added to these challenges is the problem of weak extension and research funding. Come to Nigeria as a country, for instance, you'll see that extension in the northern part of the country is different from extension in the southern part of the country, depending on the interest of the government of the day in each of those states that I'm talking about. The same way, when you go to so many countries in Africa, they are having some of these challenges. We have research institutes that are actually manned by one of the best qualified set of people that we can find on planet Earth. But how well are they tooled to do the work that they are hired to do? Some of these people that we're talking about, they were trained in the best universities in the world. But are they being given the right tools to do the work that they're expected to do? That is a serious challenge. And when research fundings even come, a lot of time they come from outside the continent, and he who pays the piper calls the tune. So the people that are funding the research will determine the direction of the research. So a lot of times the research efforts and the findings are not even useful to those of us that have these researchers that train them with our own money. Now, to worsen it up, worsen it the more, you discover that the few researches that we are even doing, some of the research findings are even on the shelves. To get them to the end users, who are the farmers, is even a problem. What is the farmer to extension ratio that we have in most of these African countries that we are talking about? And like I used to say in many of the exposures that have been given on television and radio, that even when we want to say we want to deploy digital agriculture, or we want to do e-extension, do we have the right infrastructure to support it? You can see the challenges that I faced to get on here to talk to us. Certain things that are taken for granted in some climes are not taken for granted here in Africa. I was so skeptical about whether I'm being heard or not, because I'm not so sure that the network that I'm using is strong enough to convey my messages audibly enough for my audience to hear. At times, we will have to be switching from one network to the other to be able to do the needful. And these are some of the challenges that people are facing. So now, even if you want to deploy e-extension, how many of our rural communities are linked to the internet? How many of them have the right coverage for us to be able to reach them, even if we want to reach them through e-extension? Another challenge that we've been confronting is the challenge of land tenure. Even in countries like Nigeria, where we have the Land Use Act, and the land is now reposed as a trust in the governments of the states, you discover that a lot of arable lands that should have been retained as green areas or farm areas are being sold out by these politicians to their friends and their relatives as real estate, because their intention, their interest is no longer in agriculture. And as a result of that, we are losing a lot of rich and fertile soils to the development of real estate. Everybody is trying to build houses here, and I'm not saying it's bad to build a house. After all, I have a house. The issue of governance constraints can be linked to issue of policy. A lot of times we have policy somersaults. The government of the day will say we are going in this direction. After 8 years, another government, or after 5 years, another government comes in and they say no, they are no longer following that path. Look at the gains that we made, for instance, in the rice sector in Nigeria. I'm sure the gain is gradually being eroded. A lot of jobs were created along the rice value chain in Nigeria in the 8 years of the past administration. But we are losing that gradually now, because despite the fact that the agenda of the current government has agriculture as what do you call it, as a unique and like a team that they have within their manifesto. But when you look at the body language of the government, it doesn't show that they are here to protect the farmers. Instead of protecting the farmers, we are opening our borders to bring in a lot of things that we can grow locally. And it would have been better if some of these things are even being grown by our neighboring states. But some of them are coming from abroad. They are coming from outside Africa. And they are coming because despite the fact that they told us that government has no business in business, they have no business subsidizing agriculture for us. They are subsidizing agriculture in Europe for their farmers. And because of that, because they also have the competitive advantage to produce some of these goods at cheaper rates, by the time it gets into our market, despite the fact that our currencies are weak, they still get into our markets at cheaper rate. And some of these goods, and we don't even know the condition under which they are produced. But yet, because our governments are not protecting our farmers very well, we are having these challenges that at the end of the day, by the time we look at what they are going to produce, the cost will be so exorbitant compared to what is coming in from abroad. Then we have human capital and demographic pressures as well. Like I said the other time, we have a dependent demography. A lot of we have old people, we have a lot of babies, and as Africans, we love children a lot. So we all of us we are giving birth uncontrollably, and we are not even providing the necessary skills and tools for these children that we are bringing into the world to be able to start contributing to the economy at at an early stage. And because of that, we have pressure on the little that we are producing. Another thing I forgot to add, which though is not something that is generic to many African countries, but some pockets of states within Africa are having this challenge, and that is the challenge of insecurity. We have either farmer clashes. We have, as a result of the problem of the breakdown of law and order in Libya, we have a lot of small arms proliferation in many countries along that route up till Nigeria. And because of that, we have challenges with non-state actors that are creating problems for our farmers. A lot of farms cannot be cultivated. Those are being cultivated. The farmers have to be paying protection fees, and this even increases their cost of production. These are also challenges. But be that as it may, we cannot say that all is gloomy with respect to agriculture. There have been a lot of nice innovative practices that have been put in place or that are finding their ways into Africa. Among these are the smart input delivery and fertilizer innovations. In Nigeria, at a point, we had the e-wallet during Akin Wumi Adesina's era as the Minister of Agriculture. People were able to get a subsidy and on fertilizer and other inputs through their phones, and they got. And it was a seamless exercise, though it actually faced a little itches here and there. But not only in Nigeria, we have this being done in some other countries. We have that in Kenya as well. Then we have irrigation and water smart agriculture. Even in Nigeria, I could still remember that I worked with a project then that the focus was on how to provide small-scale irrigation facilities to farmers, and this was well received by the farmers then, and it actually boosted agriculture because when the impact assessment of the project was actually carried out, we had a lot of positive results. And a lot is actually going on in the seed systems in Africa and in the area of genetics. For the project that I currently consult for, we've moved to the extent that we've introduced CDM technology, new CDM technology to farmers, and this is also going on with respect to cotton. Is going on with respect to maize. Last month I was in Senegal. I saw a lot that is going on in their seed systems as well in that country. And so there are a lot of innovative practices that are coming up to make sure that we have seeds that are pest resistant, seeds that are high yielding. So it's not as if researchers are just collecting salaries. They are doing their best. It's just that their best is not still good enough for our continent. Then a lot is going on as well in the area of digital agriculture and extension innovations. We have a lot of our students who have graduated that are now into drone technology. They are into creation of applications that farmers can use wherever they are to get up-to-date information. And this is also going on in a number of African countries. And these are innovative practices that we should actually celebrate. Now, when we talk about challenges, to a very good businessman, we know that challenges are actually opportunities for development. They are opportunities to make money. They are business opportunities. So there are also sectoral opportunities within the agricultural sector. Some of these include areas of commercial and climate smart primary production. So the it's like the floor is still open, and the room is wide enough to accommodate people who want to go into commercial production in the area of agriculture. Even the richest man in Africa, Dangote, at some point had to bend backward from manufacturing to go into production. He's into tomato production, and I think he has a sugarcane farm as well. For commercial and climate smart primary production, the window of opportunity is so wide open for a lot of people. Then, and in the area of agro processing and value addition, it's a very big area that people who have the wherewithal can come in, and they will still be able to make a lot of impact. Because when you say there is post-harvest losses, in trying to control or correct that problem, it means there is an opportunity to go into agro processing. There is still that opportunity for people to go into canning, into packaging, and what have you. I remember in the last administration in Nigeria, when we were enjoying the rice revolution, a lot of packaging companies actually sprang up, where a lot of people became millionaires as a result of just bagging rice, producing sacks to bag rice. So if that is looking at that alone, you can imagine. And a lot of companies that are into rice milling machine production and accessories. They were making a lot of money. They were smiling to the banks during that time. So it means if we continue along that line, things will be there will be opportunities, job opportunities for people. Recently, I saw a post on LinkedIn about a fellow that was complaining about the strawberry chain in Nigeria, that now they've produced a lot, and because the infrastructure is not there, the roads are bad, they could not fly from from Plateau to Lagos and what have you, that a lot of those things will be lost. So this, much as sad as this sounds, it's an opportunity to start a cottage industry to be processing strawberry into strawberry juice and what have you in that particular location. And that's the way I see it. And also in the area of agricultural inputs, the fertilizer blending company that the Dangote man just put in place, it's an eye opener. There is a lot that can be done here. A lot of I know even in the project that I said I consulted for, we to a large extent we were looking for people to come into the seed system to become entrepreneurs that will be producing and providing seed yams to farmers who want to buy and plant. So a lot of opportunities are abound there. A lot of opportunities are also abound in the area of agricultural services. Part of what we're talking about is you see a lot of podcasts these days, a lot of broadcasts in the area of agriculture. Everybody's talking agric, here and there. As long as agric is growing, there will be jobs for people in this area. Then in the area of digital agriculture and the opportunity is also limitless. We've heard of wallet in Nigeria. We have a lot of applications that can be used in the area of fintech in agriculture. The same way, a lot of students now that graduate, they've decided to move into the drone instructors, to become drone instructors and what have you. So these are jobs that could be created within the area of digital agriculture. Beyond that, the use of Internet of Things and what have you in precision agriculture and what have you under digital agriculture, a lot of opportunities abound. Then, like I said, under the issue of when I was talking about this particular lady that was talking about the challenge they faced with strawberry production in Plateau, the issue of storage is an opportunity. People can come up with private storage facilities where people can store their farm produce for a fee. I remember when I was still younger, I used to visit my uncle's frozen food store in Abeokuta in those days. And it's a very big cold room. And I know that apart from the money they make from the fish that they sell and some other things that they sell, they also make money from butchers who come to store the unsold meat in this cold store. They pay a fee, they store, and they come and pick the next day. The same way, people who sell fish and could not finish everything, they come back to store there. So the same way, people can build silos, they can build storage facilities for the storage of cereals and some other agricultural produce that can be stored and still make money out of this. People can also make money in the area of logistics. You can imagine how cheap yam is in area like Benue, for instance, and how expensive it is in Lagos. Imagine if one can start a logistic chain, a transportation company that can be that will be dedicated to moving some of these things from where they are produced to where they are needed. A lot of money can be made from this, and a lot of jobs can be created as a result. In the livestock and dairy value chains, the opportunities that abound there, they are immense. When we talk about farmer others clash, at times I look at, I remember my visit to Nyako Farms in Adamawa with one of my bosses. And when you look at the kind of cattle that are raised and under the condition that we have there, you'll be wondering why we still have some people moving all the way from the north to the coast, working heading cattle in Nigeria. It's something that you cannot readily explain. So there's a lot of opportunities within this sector. When you look at the cattle alone can provide you with milk, can provide you with beef. If you look at even what we call is byproducts that people will look at as waste, they are not actually waste. The bones, what it could be used for in the ceramic industries, to make plates, to make tiles, to make all those things. So when you look at all of this, you see that there are still a lot of opportunities that abound in this sector. Now, for us to give it more context, I decided to concentrate on the transformative potentials of agro-processing. When we look at agro-processing, it's one area that we have not really tapped to the fullest in Africa. For now, it contributes only about 12 to 15% of our GDP. And we know that it has the potential to drive a structural transformation by creating jobs, by increasing farmer incomes and reducing post-harvest losses. You can imagine, at times, I always remember this, that when Dangote first moved into tomato production, some of the into tomato paste production, one of the challenges that they first faced was that they were not having enough tomato fruits to actually run to process. And it's the same thing we had during the rice revolution in Nigeria. We have a lot of milling outfits. At times we say we have, and we know in Nigeria we like to do everything. Everything we want to do is always very big. So we have these very humongous metric tons of processing plants for rice, but we do not have enough rice paddy to process within these plants. And this could force us to look for avenue, though it should have been the other way around. It is when we produce in excess that we now create gigantic plants, milling plants, processing plants to process the excess. But in our case, we discovered that we are battling post-harvest losses. So it will be in order for us to have these agro-processing plants in place. And when we have them in place and we could not supply what they need to work at the right capacity, at the highest productive capacity, it may force us to even produce more. And if we cannot produce enough, it means we can source from our neighboring countries to power some of these plants that we are talking about. But these are some opportunities that abound that we are yet to explore fully in Africa. And we need to start looking at how to do what is known as providing inclusive growth opportunities, in the sense that because, like we pointed out in the introduction, we have a demography that is still very, very young, and because of that, we must find a way of engaging them actively. So there's need for us to come up with a lot of youth-focused initiatives and trainings. I know that a lot of outfits in Africa are doing this. I know ITA is very, very strong in this area. I know a lot of governments are trying as well, but we need to do more. We also need to provide credit and digital access for the youth and the women and the vulnerable groups, the socially marginalized. We need to make sure that they have access to credit, they have access to digital technologies for them to be able to grow the way we want Africa to actually go. Because if this demography within our population are not moving at the rate that is expected, they will continue to draw our averages back. And at the end of the day, it will be as if we are still not doing anything at all. So we need to target women and smallholders for development. We should not a situation whereby we have governments that will be telling us that they want to scrap agricultural development projects, for instance, in Nigeria, that they wanted to scrap those projects. They want to be more interested in the commercialized farmers alone. That is not a good thing to do. We should look for a pathway to make our smallholders into commercial entities as well. So we should target women, target the smallholders, assist them, provide credit, provide digital access, provide trainings for them to be able to move to the level of these commercial entities that we are talking about. We need to crawl before we walk and before we fly. And if you want to combine everything together, it's not bad. But the situation whereby we feel that we need not crawl, we need not walk at all, we should just be flying. If we fly that way, we may not land very well, we may crash land. And we need to as a result of all of this, we need to come up with new land reforms and strengthen participation, because if we do that, if we have very good land reforms in place, participation will be strengthened. Participation in agriculture will be strengthened, and if it is strengthened, it will help to unlock the economic potential that we need for our sustainable systems. So as a result, we need policy reforms. We need reforms in the area of input markets. We need to find a way of stabilizing our fertilizer supply. We need to provide support to companies that are trying to bring us out of the woods. This is not a time that will be unnecessarily reckless or think that we want to apply the models that work in Europe to our homegrown industrialists. It is time for us to support them. We can see what the private-owned refinery, the private-owned refinery that we have in Nigeria. We can see what it is doing to the economy of Nigeria as we speak. If not for that refinery, our economic woes will have been even be worse than we currently have it. And as a result of that industry, that refinery, we are able to even produce the raw materials for our fertilizer blending that fertilizer companies that we are having currently in Africa. I think to a large extent we are moving towards a time now that we in terms of production, we are moving towards self sustenance with respect to fertilizer production in Nigeria, for instance. So we need to find a way of reforming the input markets. We need to invest in irrigation and water management. We cannot rely on rain-fed agriculture to move our agriculture to the level that we desire. We just need to invest in irrigation and water management. We need to strengthen our research system. We need to strengthen our seed systems, and we need to strengthen extension as well. If we are unable to do this, we are just deceiving ourselves. Like I said, when I was in Senegal, in Dakar last month, I visited one of the research institutes. It's an African Center of Excellence, and one thing I noticed was that it was most of the snacks that we had during breaks, and that is what I expect from a very good research institute, and I want to appreciate them for that. Most of the snacks that we had during break were outputs. They were research outputs, and they were tasty, very, very good. I remember that when I was having my postdoc in Sweden, I used to wonder why everything that we were eating were always varieties of bread and varieties of cakes. And later on, I realized that, okay, this is what these people produce in abundance. And because of that, they make their diet, they center their diets and their food systems around what they are able to produce. So as Africans, like I always say, we have no business developing taste buds for things that we do not produce. So we need to find a way of developing our research around what we are producing, that we are able to produce them at a large scale, and develop our food system around those things that we are producing. We can come up with different kinds of products around what we are able to produce locally. And for us to be able to do that,
you have about 5 minutes more.
Yeah, thank you. And for us to be able to do that,
just about 5 minutes more. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. For us to be able to do that successfully, we need to invest in extension. Then we need to improve our rural infrastructure. We need to invest in roads. We need to invest in internet, telecommunication networks, and what have you. Anything that anything that will act as a backbone on which development can be built, we need to work on them. We need to connect our countries with rail facilities. It should not be about going through by ear alone. We need to enhance the land rights and facilitate investment. We need to facilitate regional trade and regulatory harmonization. We need to promote inclusive finance and insurance. And we need to adopt climate smart and biodiversity respecting agriculture. Yeah, we need to encourage private sector participation, and we need to also provide safeguards for whatever they need to do. We should not just leave them to just be doing whatever they want to do, and to the detriment of the environment and the social landscape. In conclusion, we must understand that our agricultural crisis is not a single problem, and as a result of that, there's no single cap fit it all. There's no one cap fit it all for it. We don't have a single solution for it. We must also understand that for the continent to transform, we will require some tailored interventions that will suit different countries and different regions within the continent. And we should understand that Africa's agricultural growth is possible when our inputs, when they align with the institutions that we have put in place and they align with our market. And this is why I said we have no business developing taste bud in Africa for things that we do not produce locally. We must grow what we eat, and we must eat what we grow. Thank you for giving me this audience to talk and share my experience with this lovely audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Idris Badiru. Really enjoy you. I don't want to stop you at all. I was enjoying it myself, and it's a lovely presentation. It shows you're a lecturer, you're an extensionist. You know how to convince your farmers in order to be able to understand whatever you have for them. And I believe many of the audience here in the class today, in this forum, will be able to get many things, not just one or two things, many things of what you have said regarding Africa's agricultural crisis and the opportunities we have for transformation. You have said that researchers are not just collecting salary, they are really working. And I can see you as a researcher for development. You have talked about extensively on what you have been doing, the practical sense of it. Thank you very much for this. You have reminded us to know the modern challenges that we have, from the low input adoption, climate variability, poor infrastructure, weak extension, and research findings, and a host of others. And likewise, you take us through the opportunities that are bound for us, opportunities for commercialization. Africa have the population, so we have the market. We can commercialize. The great opportunities for us, as well as the world is in the digital age. We have been digitalizing agricultural practices, particularly in the area of agri-fintech. You have taken us through, as well as livestock and dairy value chains. And likewise, finally, you let us know that value addition is very, very key, and that one can create job, can create the market, and a lot of things for us. And I could remember when I was watching one of these documentaries on CNN by Quest, Coconomics. That's what it titled, Coconomics. That Ivory Coast is the largest producers of cocoa in the world. I think 2023 they produce about 42% of the world cocoa, and they don't have very good chocolate industries. And Switzerland, that does not even produce plant this cocoa, are the one that's leading in chocolate production. So why can't they, or Africa generally, we are just exporting raw materials? We're supposed to be adding values that you have just said in terms of transformation through value chain. So we learned a lot of things, and I'm very happy that I'm in today's presentation. And I believe that when we still call you in the next 1, 2, 3 months, you still respond to us. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, so to the audience, if you have one or two questions that you have, you can let us have it so that Dr. Badiru can answer your questions, or you have comments, you can type it in the chat box so that you can read it and provide answers to questions that you may have for him, based on the topic, Africa's agricultural crisis and opportunities for transformation. So people have been writing, they've been commenting. Thank you very much. It's very interesting, educative, and insightful presentation. Really, really, really. This is really interesting, and it is educative and really insightful. We thank our presenter for this particular presentation. So that is from the audience that you have. Others are also thanking you very much that they have learned. Everybody got what you have said. It's very interesting, meaning even those who are not grounded in agriculture as an extensionist. You let them love agriculture, and you have taken them through the rudiment in terms of the ancient challenges we have to the modern challenges we have, and agriculture is still the key. Okay. I could remember when you were even talking about subsidies, that they are removing subsidies, not for agriculture, because we have to eat. And government must subsidize, like the Western world in Europe, they are subsidizing. So I can pick that one also from your presentation today. And these are very, very, very interesting things for us to hear. So if there are no questions from the audience, I think we can release our lecturer for the day, Dr. Idris Badiru from University of Ibadan, Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development. Thank you very much for this presentation. I'll be looking forward to calling you once again. Hope you are going to come when we call upon you again, Doctor. So we'll be expecting you in our main. So we are going to round up today's webinar, and hopefully we are still meeting again next month, God willing, in the month of January 2026. That will be a new year, and we'll be having another presentation. Bye for now. Thank you, Dr. Badiru. Thank you, everybody.